We're
All
live.
right. We are live. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning, Jeremiah. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. I know you mentioned you had to turn your light on. I had to turn my light on in here. It is a little cloudy. Clouds haven't burned off yet.
Yeah, it was raining this morning on the freeway briefly. I didn't expect it, and apparently neither did anybody else. It really slowed things down.
Here in San Diego, we kind of panic a little bit,
Yes.
I had to put new windshield wipers on my car, not because we use them too often, but because they finally just became so brittle from
Yeah.
drying up in the sun.
Yeah. Yeah, the
Hey,
rubber
but
just kind of disintegrates after a while.
it's the 28th of April.
It is.
So we are getting close to some of the worst weather in San Diego, May gray. It's coming.
And June gloom.
Let's not, come on. What if other people are listening?
Let's keep it positive. Keep it
Yeah, let's
positive.
keep it positive. Oh man, let's keep it positive, but let's just jump into it, man. And I'll put the banner up. I thought we were going to go positive, but it looks like people are running south.
Yeah, they're going south of the border. Um, so this first article is talking about San Diegans. The prices here, obviously, it's a high cost of living. Housing costs quite a bit. And so some San Diegans are finding refuge south of the border in Mexico. So what I thought was interesting about this, Jeremiah, is that one of the guys that was interviewed, who's a realtor down there, he said that you can get a waterfront condo starting at 200,000.
Yeah, I almost thought there was a typo there. Is that?
I know.
I mean, but it was almost like the way they put it. It was like 202, and then it had the number 6, and then the
Yes.
700,000.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I think I understand what he was saying in that it's massively lower. We're not even saying the M word million, but
Yeah.
I mean, whether you're getting a tiny condo that's actually waterfront for even close any sub 500,000, I mean, that's crazy.
That's
That's
nuts.
absolutely
Yeah.
nuts.
Yeah. So, I mean, but what comes along with this, of course, is that you need to go across the border back and forth. And I don't know all of the stipulations associated with that. I've also been told that as a US citizen, and this may not be accurate, that you have to buy whatever property you purchase in Mexico through another entity
I've
and
heard
use
that too.
an
Yeah, I've heard
attorney
that.
to do it so that you're not really the buyer on paper.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how that all works. It definitely would make me nervous. And I think it's because I just don't know a whole lot about that process.
Mm-hmm.
But those numbers, to purchase a condo for, let's say, $700,000 on the water and walk out and be at the beach at your doorstep, that's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, it's absolutely amazing. I mean, I felt like the article was talking a lot about the younger generation that's willing to do
Mm,
this, right? So I don't think, I don't think we're going to have a ton of like empty nesters having the kids go off to college and then they move down to Mexico.
right.
Nor do I think we're going to have young families with 2.5 kids, heading south.
Yeah.
But the whole concept, and the article didn't talk about renters either. I thought that
Right.
would be a massive deal because you and I, yeah, we don't have a pulse on exactly how those transactions work, but we both agree if it's a deal buying, it's going to be a deal renting.
Right.
And this article talked about how some of these younger people, they were saying they were looking to live, and if they could work remotely and have that flexibility, then they're not even contending with any of that travel and traffic and everything
Right.
across the border. So
Right.
um, I don't know all the logistics of it, but I know that wasn't there a gal they talked about in this article
Yes.
that said she had roommates and it wasn't something that she necessarily couldn't stand, but
Mhm.
she was able to afford a larger place and have her own space.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I get it. I get it.
Yeah. Me too. I mean, there's pros and cons. Um, Definitely having your own space as an adult is nice, and I think the gal that they interviewed is a coach
Okay.
at, a local school, so, she obviously wanted.
So then she would have to be commuting back and
Yeah.
forth. Yeah.
Yeah, in her case, yeah.
Okay.
Um,
I think that gets that part's a little tricky for me to wrap my head around just because of I mean, gosh, we just talk about traffic here in San Diego, which is nothing compared to border traffic,
oh,
LA
yeah,
traffic, any of that stuff.
right, right.
Um, the other thing that I was thinking about was um, what I have been because I've chatted with a couple of these first time home buyers, these younger folks that they're like, what do I do? How do I get into something right now? And
Mhm.
I would actually preach what this gal in the article was trying to get away from and having roommates. Why not try to buy something and capitalize on you being the landlord and then renting out rooms?
Right.
And you're staying in the States and you're having to skip any of that other, foreign obstacles in purchasing. So
Yeah.
I guess it's a mindset. It's what you're willing to look at for, and is this an investment or do you just want lifestyle? So
Right. Yeah, and then also, I mean, qualifying, has gotta be a challenge too for, the homes here in San
mhm.
Diego. When you look at our average sales price, our median prices here, it's just for a lot of people, unfortunately, that's just out of reach.
Yeah, that's
And
fair.
so, but I love the idea of, house hacking, where you're purchasing a property, it's in your name, you hold title, but then you rent rooms out, and that helps you offset the mortgage, and you can take advantage of building equity over time, in the United States, in San
Yeah,
Diego, which is a highly desirable area.
yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah,
I don't know if you made up that term. I'm going to steal it. I like that. I like the house hacking.
yeah, I,
Um,
I didn't make it up. Yeah, but yes, I mean, as a single person, absolutely, it would make sense,
yeah.
right? So,
If I could go back in time to when I was going to UCSD,
mhm,
that's exactly what I should have done,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And it's so much harder to do if you're engaged or if you're married
right,
or especially if you have kids
yeah,
or a cat. But but really, it's just do it while you can,
right,
because life just keeps on getting harder from there and more complicated, and then it's really not realistic to
yeah,
try that out.
right,
But
right. But hey, I mean, uh, good on them. That if they're doing what they want to do, and it makes sense for them, and they're getting, a lot more bang for their buck. That's great.
yeah,
Uh, you know, but boy, going back and forth across the border every day, it just doesn't seem appealing.
yeah, I get to each his own, and
Yeah.
hopefully they took Spanish in school and not German like I did. It's- it doesn't help, learning German and then living in Southern California.
Not really. No.
Hey, should we move to the next one?
Yeah, let's talk about, mother-in-law units, in-law suites, huh?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's the well,
ADUs.
yeah, I put the ADUs in the headline, but the actual headline off of the Inman site was homeowners support grows for mother-in-law units, and
Yes.
and that's what I know you have a lot of experience in, John. But I just want to talk about the first part of the article where they were really just talking about what did homeowners want in their community, in their neighborhood? What did renters want in their neighborhood, their community? And
Right.
that's where I saw just the big difference of everyone recognizing we need housing, that there's a
Right.
lack of housing, but the homeowners were in less support of bringing in small, medium, large apartment buildings because they didn't want to, miss out, lose on parking, additional traffic. But at the same time, you have renters saying, "Hey, listen, rent's also out of control, and
Mhm.
we need those multiple units to come into the community." So
Right.
I I know in different areas where we have our practice, gosh, some areas there's just no space for apartment buildings.
Yes.
That's not even an option. And I know throughout San Diego County there are areas that have expanded and have room for those. But I thought what was interesting and what I want to get a lot of your feedback on is areas where we can't build, where there's no room to build, and then what people are doing in their own backyard. And I'll let you take it.
Yeah. Okay, so San Diego, again, there's a lot of people moving here from all over. And again, in large part because of COVID, people can work remote. COVID, obviously uh, is a worldwide pandemic. It caused a reset for a lot of people in their mindset and a paradigm shift with what is actually important. So, taking it down to that level, a lot of folks decided that they wanted to be in either the nicest area they could live in because they can work remote, or they wanted to be closer to family. And some folks were able to check both boxes, where maybe mom and dad, let's say, own a piece of property here in North County, San Diego, and they have the space to be able to put another unit on it. I know of some cases where the parents have said, look, we do want you to come live with us. We're going to build an additional dwelling unit for ourselves. And then you and your family, our grandkids, can take over the house. You guys can take over the home. So it depends on the community that you're in and how much space you actually have to be able to do that. And there's also different rules associated with whether or not the additional dwelling unit is attached to the home versus a detached unit. And can you have both? Can you
Mhm.
can you can you do both? Some communities allow you to do it, some don't. You have to take into account the setbacks of the property as well. But that's one thing. So that's one set of issues right there. There's a whole nother set of issues, which is what you were talking about, Jeremiah, which is we have a housing crisis here. There's a lot of renters that live in the area. They know they need more housing. And when we look at communities that have, let's say, larger lot sizes and maybe they're more affluent communities, many of those owners don't want the density. They don't want people to put additional dwelling units in because of, like you said, they don't want to deal with parking, traffic issues, riffraff that might be associated with having more people just in the community.
Yeah, and how about views? We've probably both had clients where they're like, "Hey, listen, what are the chances that someone's going to take that whole lot and put
Yes.
a 2, 3 story unit on there?"
So it's funny you say that. Yesterday, literally yesterday, I had a meeting with a neighbor, and it turned into a bigger meeting than I thought it was going to be. They ended up purchasing the property right in front of them because they have a gorgeous view property,
Mhm.
and they don't want that view to be impeded by anyone who might purchase the home in front of them,
Mhm.
right? And so they just decided to write a check and say here. And so
Wow.
now they own the property in front of them to protect their view. They're taking it one step further and they are going to be extending their lot line. So there'll be a lot line adjustment to now incorporate a large section of the property that they just bought into their property
Wow.
so that they further protect their view. And at that point, they will either rent out the property that they purchased
Mhm.
or they will sell it.
Because they've already protected by changing the lot size.
Yeah, so they protected it initially right now by purchasing the property in front of them.
Mhm.
And now what they're going to do is they're going to take it one step further and incorporate a large chunk of that lot into their own lot.
Yeah.
And then after that, they'll decide what they want to do with the property that they purchased.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but if you can do that, that makes perfect sense because
If you can do that, and that
if
can't
you
be the
can do that.
norm, right?
No, right. But those are the types of people that do not want the density. They
Hmm.
don't want a bunch of ADUs going up all over the place. And a big part of the reason why they bought here years ago was because it had more space
Hmm.
between neighbors and they're still close to amenities and the beach and all these other perks, right?
Hmm.
But they absolutely are not going to have somebody take out their view because that has a direct impact on them personally, on them financially if they go to sell their house in the future, and just the overall quality of their property and how attractive it is.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
so with the ADUs, it's really a mixed bag. You get people on both sides of the spectrum, and there's absolutely a need for the additional dwelling units, whether it's for renting or you're having family and you want to get everybody together and it's like a family compound. Um, but it does cause some strife in the community and with certain neighbors who really they don't appreciate it. They don't want that done.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
I just it's such a mixed bag because we have the low inventory levels.
mhm,
So if you are looking to buy and you're looking for a place to live in a specific town, in a specific neighborhood,
yeah,
that you may already have a family member that's there.
right,
Um, yes, construction costs are expensive, and they're compared to years past, they're absolutely absurd.
yeah,
But is that absurd construction fee more manageable than not being able to find a different home to be living in?
right,
So um,
yeah,
and
you
then
know,
I'm just wondering too how much pushback, and I mean, we haven't talked too much about just being neighborly and communicating with our different neighbors. But as neighbors are building up around you or not building up, what type of conflicts are we going to have there? So it just,
right,
I understand why we're seeing lopsided support from renters, from homeowners,
yeah,
in altering the community, or like you're saying with your example, trying to maintain a and not changing the neighborhood. So
right.
it's interesting stuff, and I know it varies by city. So
It definitely does. You know, Carlsbad here, they're in favor generally of higher density. That's why if you go down to the village area, it's lost some of its character because there's high rises. I call them high rises, maybe five, let's say 4 or 5 stories.
no, but it's, yeah, but for an area that's all single level, yeah.
Exactly right. Yeah. So it
Yeah.
sticks out like a sore thumb. And I know that we're only seeing the beginning of that.
Mhm.
And as you go further north along the coast there in Carlsbad, right before Oceanside, we're seeing more and more building taking place. And I mean, what are you going to do? The developers want to maximize their return on
Mhm.
investment. There's only so much space. The lot is only so large. So you can go up and then you
Mhm.
can dig under it and have a parking structure underground. And
Yep.
so that's what the majority of these new builds are doing. Um, and I mean, it's almost inevitable. It really
Yep.
is almost inevitable. But you definitely want to be respectful of people's views and the density issue. I mean, to that point, I don't know if it was spring break, Jeremiah, but a couple weeks ago, the whole village area felt like summer. There were so many people there.
Yeah.
I should have just rode my bike there and not driven because you couldn't move. It was
Yeah.
really something
Yeah.
else. So this summer will be very interesting.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Especially trickling out of a pandemic. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Yeah. It's
yeah,
it, I feel like we see, I know now we're getting off topic here, but we just see like waves of like, why are the beaches so packed on a Tuesday?
Exactly right.
But
Yeah.
then I think it's like we have nice weather, things are opening up, and then people are going, hey, I've been waiting 2 years to get out here.
Yeah.
So,
That's right. Yeah.
um,
So
well, you're speaking about crazy things. I titled the next one on our banner "Bidding Wars." I mean, okay. Well, let's just start. This is off of the Yahoo News site. It was actually a LA Times column writer that they pulled from, and even though we're in San Diego here, it's an article about a southern Pasadena property that was
mhm.
sold. The headline is the house was listed for 1.2 million. Sales price even crazier than you might think. And I think to you and I, it's hard to give us a crazy one.
Exactly. Yeah.
But for the general public, for all consumers out there, yes, I mean, people need to read this. People need to see this. Not that this is an everyday example, but it is. I thought this piece itself, it was like part column writer on how this individual felt, but then he
Uh-huh.
was also interviewing agents, and he was also bringing in some facts. But
Right.
he put it as it's reached a level of absurdity.
Yes.
And even though I can't disagree with that comment, I was chatting with a client this morning over the phone about the market, and I was telling him some figures on where this is what you can get for this amount.
Right.
And I said, you know what? 12 months ago, I would have said, hey, I hope you're sitting down before I tell you this, because it
Yeah.
feels it feels absurd to even say out loud. And
Right.
now this absurdity that we're reading in this article, it's just reality of what we're in. But I've gone off on a tangent. I gotta let everyone know. So the 1.2, what did it go for? It was
2.5.
2.5. Yeah,
Yeah.
2.5. Um, I mean, I haven't quite seen that
Yeah.
anywhere for any of my clients, or any cities around here. Um, I think they said the kitchen still needed work as well. Um,
Yeah. So, so apparently this home was in South Pasadena,
yeah,
and they had 60 offers on this house. Um uh, what that tells me is that yes, obviously there's a huge demand there, but in addition to that, maybe it was uh, priced very conservatively,
that's
and
yeah,
uh,
that's
to put it lightly.
the agent said that she had ran all the
Yeah.
comparables, and it was priced relatively aggressively, maybe low, but
So yeah, but it doesn't make any sense. Normally, when not normally, but in a scenario like that, uh, it just kind of sends up a little tickler, and I think to myself, there's another reason. Maybe these folks who bought the house know something we don't know.
mhm,
Maybe there's money in behind the drywall. Maybe this is a drug operation. Maybe, it could be all sorts
yeah,
of things. Or maybe none of those things. But
yeah,
the price of the home had nothing to do with their decision.
mhm.
There's something else at play there. So okay, what are you gonna do? I'm curious to see, Jeremiah, where did those other offers come in at, right?
Well, I thought, shoot, I don't have it right in front of me. I thought they had multiple offers over two. No,
Really?
but yeah, I think they had multiple offers over two.
All right. So that's just a gross case of somebody not at all understanding the price point.
That's
You know,
that's what I think, because if you just have an outlier, then I would
sure.
agree with what you're saying. That, listen, they just had to have it. Their best friend lived next door, you know, whatever it was. But
Yeah.
um,
Huh.
hey, listen, I have seen in our market here in San Diego, I've seen a home go for a million over. I mean, it's not common at all, but it happens.
Yeah.
But I just, yeah, I tend to agree with you. If the reality was that there was other offers over 2 million, that there had to have been um, just less than competent work on looking at the comparable homes.
Yeah.
But I mean, but let's talk about who's buying these, and where
Mhm.
that's coming from, because I thought that was another interesting part of the article, in that, you know, there's so much money from, I think these folks bought it 40 years ago in Pasadena. So obviously tons of equity,
Yeah. Yeah.
millions of dollars of equity that they have there. And this article talked about how the baby boomers, these older generations have so many assets,
Right.
and and in real estate is one of their main places where they have these assets. And now they are, I don't know if it was, I don't know who the buyer was on this one, but I bring it up because I know I'm seeing this, and you might be seeing this, where buyers that are winning these bidding wars are getting a lot of assets being gifted to them from family.
That's
and
right.
and I think a lot of it's coming from, mom and dad that have that equity,
Yep.
that have sold another property or are just pulling from it.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. So I've been surprised a number of times on the listing side with just the sheer amount of funds that people are showing,
Mhm.
and even quote unquote young couples showing a lot of money in the bank, and it's got to come from somewhere. And yes, jobs are one thing, and yes, there's a lot of people with tech jobs and maybe jobs in biotech and things like that. There's higher paying W-2 jobs, but to see the extent, to see how consistent this has been across young couples in particular, oftentimes it is a gift, like you said, Jeremiah, from somebody in the family, whether it's mom and dad, Uncle Bob, you name it, and they see
Mhm.
what's going on right now in the real estate marketplace, and they go, "Oh my goodness, our kids are not going to be able to afford a house. We have to figure this out, especially if we want our kids to be in a good area, right?
Yeah.
Uh, you know, and go to certain schools. So have our grandkids to go to certain schools. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so that's the conversation I think that's taking place with a lot of families, and so they're gifting huge chunks of change to their kids. Um, also to piggyback on that, a lot of folks have done quite well in the stock market over the last year and a half, 2 years, and have pulled money out. We know it's quite volatile right now. Pulled money out and then have been parking it in real estate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so
Um, there was a quote from this article. They said, it's not a negotiation anymore. It's a
it's
competition.
competition. Yeah. Well,
And
okay.
yeah, it's like, I remember, years back when I would be presenting two buyer offers to my seller.
Yeah.
They wanted to know about the buyer, and they wanted to, no, but you're laughing because you know where I'm headed with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then, they go, these are very similar offers, but, for these reasons, and for these terms structured in this offer, we think we'll actually go with the one that's 5,000 less.
Right.
Um, and then now we're at a point where that absurd point where, well, you're not going to turn down an offer that's $500,000 more than the next one.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what, as long as it's a legitimate offer.
Right.
So there's that. And then the other thing, I was talking with another agent actually yesterday, that hasn't really been on my radar. It's with the investors that are doing the 1031 exchanges
Okay.
that are competing for some of these properties and are willing to spend more
Mm-hmm.
because they're on the clock
That's right.
as far as identifying, you know what I mean? Like, as far as identifying the property and then closing on a property.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering how many more, we always talk about, like, okay, well, we, adjustments could be made if the interest rates go up. There'll be less buyers and we'll get closer to more of a neutral market. Um,
Right.
Watching prices, watching interest rates, but I haven't thought about those investors in the 1031s that if they continue to stay in play, they could help support some of these prices even more.
Right.
I know that wasn't on my radar. It may have been on yours.
I've heard from one buyer client who's still been, waiting. He's been on the fence. And he's in particular quite frustrated because he didn't get in sooner to the
Mhm,
market.
mhm,
And so he's been tracking some things, and his feedback is, yes, that a lot of these people that he's competing against, they have equity in other properties that they've either sold, or they have a home equity line of credit that they're leveraging. Um, and yeah, I mean, you have to get into the game, get your foot in the door first. Now, in this particular case, this buyer wants the end all be all home as his first house.
mhm.
And that so often is not how this is done.
Yeah.
So we've talked about this before, where a lot of people are saving, and they're doing a great job saving money and saving up and saving up, and their goal is to buy a house. Thing is, the housing market is still appreciating,
Mhm.
and the rate of their savings can't touch the rate of appreciation.
Yeah.
Now, that rate of appreciation, I believe, is going to start to peak and then plateau a bit. But interest rates are going up. So your effective ability to purchase has gone down.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
where is that balance, right, between purchase price, competition, and your
Your
rate?
buying power. Yeah, your buying power.
So there's just so many variables at play right now. For most folks, I still, of course, the question is, why are you looking to get into the marketplace?
Yeah.
But if they're looking to get in, to have a foot in the door and to keep this property for any real length of time, it's still a great time to buy.
Yeah. Yeah. I told a client a couple days ago this. I said, because they said, should I buy now? Um, and I go, well, listen, this is when I think you should either buy, because we can't forecast the future. We don't know
Yeah,
what's going to happen there. For all we know, 5-10 years from now, there could be something significant that bursts the entire housing market.
right,
So I said, you need to do two things. You need to either buy immediately
right.
or wait 5 years, and 5-10 years, you know what I mean? And then,
But then it's still
well,
an unknown.
no, but what I'm saying is buy immediately, or you can just wait for that day that everything
Right,
crumbles.
right.
Because waiting 12 months, waiting 2 years, waiting 3 years, I don't think you're going to like what it looks like at that
Yeah,
point.
yeah. And what we do know, right? So we're making the best decision that we can with the information we have.
Sure.
And and really what we do know right now is that the population continues to grow, and we have a severe housing shortage here, at least in San Diego,
Mhm.
and really across the United States, but in San Diego in particular. And that the desirable communities, are only going to continue over time to become more desirable, because there's only so much land in those communities that can be built on, and those homes are probably already built.
Yep.
So it's just, again, it's getting into the marketplace and holding,
Yeah.
and then at some point you're going to have options. So for the people that, to your point, Jeremiah, have been waiting for a while and are unsure and are asking you, is now a good time to buy? It's either you do it immediately, or you don't, or you sit on the sidelines and see what happens to the world over the next 5-10
Yeah,
years.
yeah. When you just I don't like to toss around the word miracle, but you just hope that maybe magically, something will happen.
Yeah.
Just like the people that felt compelled to cash out of the stock market before lockdown,
Hmm.
and then they were able to swoop in and take advantage, and
Yeah.
and make a lot of money. And hey, that's fantastic. I just, I like to be, hey, you're the same way, John. You're blunt with your clients,
Yeah.
and I think that people need just to have that bluntness and be directed, just so they can make the choice for themselves, but they
Yeah.
understand that this is what we're seeing.
Yeah.
It could even change into more of a neutral market, but
Hmm.
it's not going to implode.
Right.
Not anytime in the near future, and it's going to take something significant to cause that.
Yeah.
So
Right.
um, make your decision.
There's no
Uh,
time like the present, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah. Well, this
Oh,
was
cool,
good. We
man.
got some good topics.
Yeah, great show, man. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. There was another article I didn't even tell you about that maybe we can squeeze in next week. Um,
Sorry,
about
I've got a coworker in the back who's rambunctious. It's my dog. Hang on. Hang on. Here we go. All right, and we're back. And we're back.
and he's like, hey, I thought we were going to go for a walk,
Lulu, my rambunctious coworker. Yeah.
Lulu.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I got something to share with you later
Okay.
on. Maybe we can squeeze it into
Yeah.
next week's. And
Cool.
hey, I see the sun coming out a little bit over here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. This is nice. I actually drove by the coast briefly this morning, and it looked somewhat inviting, a lot more inviting than it did earlier today.
yeah, I
So
know. I gotta get out there. I gotta do a market update.
yeah, well, we're due for the home dex numbers. I think what, in the next week or
I think
so.
so. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
They're gonna be coming out. Yeah, normally they come out early first week of the month. So
Mm,
yeah, always interesting to see.
yes.
So
Yes.
all right, my friend. Well, have a fantastic day. Look forward to seeing you again on the next episode.
You too, Jeremiah. Thank you. This was fun.
All right, see you, John.
Bye.